Yeah, I can.
That's how the technology works. I'm just saying how the technology works.
Yeah, we just gonna wrap, and if you got something going on in the background while somebody's talking, you can mute yourself. Kind of knock out the background noise and stuff. There should be, like for me, there's a little icon up there in my upper right corner above my picture that I can mute it. You might have something on the bottom because you're using your phone, right?
I'm actually on the computer.
Okay.
The laptop.
So take your mouse and go across your picture, and it should light up.
Yeah, I see it.
You see it? So if you need to mute yourself or whatever, that's all you got to do. So anyhow, here we are for our first session of Skin I'm In with my main man, Kelvin J. Jarrett. What's up?
Hey, what's going on, Mr. Jamerson? Pleasure to talk to you today. I'm glad that we're able to have this meeting. I think you and I both know that that's a real, very real situation dealing with the skin that we're in.
Oh, yeah. Especially as brothers.
As brothers.
Yeah, yeah. Because, in the world today, I look out there and they have, in a sense, ostracized the brother and put us out on an island by ourselves, although we amongst the people. There's no place in this society that we are welcome, hardly, with the exception of if you're rapping or playing ball or cooning for somebody. So, but for real brothers, there's no representation. What they portray of us out there in the streets, as a black man who's a father who takes care of his kids and things of that nature. You rarely, if ever, see that. But the thing is, when I look at the brothers that I knew, that I grew up with, the majority of them take care of their families. The majority of them, are there taking care of their kids and things of that nature. And so this thing that, the black man is not there with his family, I just don't understand where that's coming from. And then also this for lack of a better term, I just call it like it is, homosexual trend that they have with the black man, that's who he is. And among my circles, I'm not saying that it ain't out there, but I know far more brothers who are straight and married and who take care of the kids than I do folks who are just out there being homosexual or abandoning their kids. Because I know you and myself, even with the brothers that we know who don't live with children, we would hold them accountable.
That's correct.
And so and that's just among fellas, among brothers, we would hold them accountable. We like, hey man, hey, you got to take care of your kids. And so that's part of what this forum is about, is to be able to get a viewpoint from our point of view, with the exception of having somebody else trying to tell us what we think and how we think. I'm trying to get this forum with the two of us and some others to come on weekly and to share our viewpoints on just the things that we see out there and how we feel about things, so that people can see that there are real men out there, real black men out there, and that we do care. We do take care of our families. We do work. As long as I've known you, you and I both, I always been trying to work our own business, get off that plantation.
Yes,
we take any opportunity we can. We could teach Kunta Kinte some things on making that escape. Uh,
I think you're right, my brother.
yeah, because we ran them many a day. So I want you to give you an opportunity to just give a little background on who you are, and then if there's anything that's on your mind right off the top of the bat, we'll go from there. If not, I got a couple of things I got written down that we can go ahead and discuss about. So
yes, sir. Yes,
go ahead.
Okay. Well, again, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. It's been a pleasure knowing you these many, 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 many years, and watching you grow as a man, and actually teaching me some things as a man. You have a very beautiful family, and I'm just a pleasure to, first of all, foremost, to call you a friend.
Yeah.
Secondly, again, my name is Kelvin Jarrett. I'm in my early 50s now, and I've had an opportunity to see things from a different perspective. I've been in a lot of things. I've been in a lot of movements. As just like you, I feel that, being in the United States and being a man of African descent, that we have been basically any opportunity that we've had to take and make it for ourselves. We haven't just been put on the same playing field on the same level. We're on the field, but we're on the 1 yard line and others are on the 50, 60, 70, whatever, how many of the 100 yards they are. So
yeah,
I think it's harder for us to, and then those of us who have sons, it's an ongoing concern, because the way society today is, if you want your children to grow up to be men, your boys to grow up to be men, there are a lot of challenges that are standing in the way. And like you said, if they're not playing sports, if they're not a rapper, they're not recognized as men in this society. And actually, they are being feminized. The way the dress code is going, and that and the other things. But the thing that bothers me the most is, like, if you yourself doesn't believe that it's okay to be a homosexual, then all of a sudden you have a problem. And I just don't agree with that way of thinking. I'm sure we'll probably talk about that a little bit more as far as that goes.
Hey. We're keeping it 100. So
that's how it's gonna go. If you don't like it, hey, you ain't gotta watch it.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. I'm sure we'll hear something somewhere down the road, someone that doesn't agree with us, and to try to paint a picture of us as being homophobic or whatever the term that they like to use out here today. Then also another thing too, while I'm just talking, like I said, you and I are both business owners. We both worked in corporate America, so we can honestly say from our experiences that we kind of have some insight into what we're talking about.
Yeah.
There's some very troubling statistics out there that really bother me the most. Is I've heard, I'm not sure which program it is. It may be program called the 13th that came on Netflix. But whatever the statistic was, it was for every 100 white women that are out here free, there are 99 white men. But for every 100 black men that are out here free, black women that are out here free, there are only 60 black men. And that's a troubling fact, and hopefully we can actually break that down as to why. And I believe one of those reasons, well, we can talk about that a little bit more in detail as to why. How do we get?
Go ahead. If you ready to go for it, let's go for it. That's what we're here for.
Okay. So this is now, like I said, this is the more of an opinion, but I just based on what I see. The reasoning of that is, well, you have a lot of things that go on. One of them being penitentiaries. Mm-hmm. And see what people don't realize. We've been in America over 400 years, and we're still at 12% of the population. And from what I remember years ago in the 80s, by the year 2027, we were supposed to have birthed ourselves into the majority based on our birth rates.
Now this was a statistic from what time?
No, I'm saying, well, in the 80s, mm-hmm. Early 80s, I'd heard a demographic that had said that by the year 2027, black people will have birthed themselves into the majority. But surprisingly, or maybe not so surprisingly, we're still at 12% of the population. So that is a serious indictment.
So what do you think has been implemented, or what do you think has happened to our community that has decreased our population from being the majority to remaining where we're at?
Right. And then others have come over here and even passed us up population wise. But one of the things that I think, you have the prison industrial complex, you have the quote war on drugs. So all of these things disproportionately affect, the black male or the black community in general. But one thing you can't do when you're in prison, you can't repopulate. If you're gay, you're not going to repopulate. If you're dead by the age of 20, between 18 and 25, you cannot you cannot procreate or repopulate. So there are a lot of factors that are, I feel that the attack is on all fronts. And I've also heard recently that the number one killer in the black community is abortion.
That's it. I was going to see if you got there.
Okay.
All right. I'm a stickler on that one.
All right. Okay.
So
that's it. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Well, I was just going to say, I agree with all that. The prisons, the war on drugs, how that has put us in taking us away from the fatherhood, father figure being in the family, is taking our youth away in their most productive years in procreation, and put them in prison. And then, as you said, the gay agenda. Now, I understand. I'm not one to tell somebody what they can and can't do. As you know, we got friends who've done a lot of things, who stole, who lie, who cheat, who do all types of stuff. And we'll tell them that they're wrong for it. Just like we said earlier, if we had a friend who had a child that wasn't taking care of it, we'd say, hey, man, you need to take care of your kid. But just because we don't agree with what everybody does don't mean that we hate them, and don't mean that we still can't be cool with folks. And so first thing I wanted to be known that this is not an attack on the homosexuals or the LGBTs, whatever they're called, and no disrespect to that. But this is just our opinion. This is where we are. This is how we grew up. And the same way that they have a right to feel the way that they feel, and they want us to respect them in their position, we also feel that they need to respect our position. Because the thing is that as we're taught, homosexuality is a realm of death. And the reason why it is considered a realm of death, as you explained, there's no procreation in it. Now, you can go up there and sneak around and try to get pregnant, or you can go up there and adopt a baby and all this other stuff. But that is going out of the norm of doing things. And but within itself, a woman and a woman cannot produce a child, and a man cannot produce a child. And that's why it is a dead relationship, because it does not produce life. And
Correct.
So those are just our opinions about it. And if somebody can go up there and prove differently, and I know they got scientists and stuff that are trying to come up with all types of ways to make it all right for it to happen, but this is just a natural course of things. And same way people can have their opinion about certain things, I can have my opinion about it. They say that they were born that way and that I should respect it. I say, hey, I like money too. However, if I go up there and say, because I like money, you should respect it and allow me to just come and take your money, because I like it so much. I was born that way. More than any will be willing to say, hey, no, you need to be stopping, that you're wrong. And so same way that my mindset on that may be skewed, I believe that I can also, through my opinion, say that their mindset on their ways are skewed. But no offense to them. And but I think that is part of the agenda to lessen the rate of our people. When I look out here on the commercials and stuff that are out now, that is one thing that I see widely. One, I rarely see any brothers like you and I. And two, if I do see any brothers out there, they're always in a feminine pose. They're always dressed up in a feminine way, or they're up there dancing or doing something. And there's nothing wrong with dancing, but show me some brothers who are businessmen like you and I are. Show me some brothers who are out there taking care of their family, and show me some brothers who are straight. Why is it that we can't see that? And that's one of the things that I particularly liked about the movie The Black Panther, was that I didn't see any brothers in there that at least none that stood out to me. Now, they may have had some in the background, I just may have overlooked them, but I didn't see any brothers in there that weren't in a manly manner. And I didn't see any feminine men in that movie. And so I think that resonated with our community. And so often, especially here the past 10, 15 years, there's been a special attack, especially on the Black community, to get them to accept the feminization of our men. So one of the questions I want to ask you is, why do you think our young men are so readily to turn to this feminine state? You got to take yourself off of mute.
Yeah. Yeah. So, can you hear me, John?
I can hear you now.
Okay, good. Well, I think one of the things are, you look around you on the media, social media, everywhere you look, there are examples of that. And unfortunately, everywhere you look in the home, there are no or less and less examples of men in the home. And a lot of young men are being raised by females who may or may not share that view that it's okay to be gay. If you don't have a man or male for an example or a role model, then it's very hard to be what you don't have an example of.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna get your example from the television, you're gonna get your example from the streets, you're gonna get your example from those. And unfortunately, Hollywood, because you have people, who live that lifestyle, so prominently there. I've even seen it on Star Trek, and I'm like, wow, this is my show that I've been watching for years, and to see two men kissing on Star Trek, there really wasn't necessary to put that in there.
Right.
But the people on the show, oh, it's about time, they should have been doing this years ago. Well, why? So it's not even a part of what that show is about, but they had to bring their point of view into that. So of course, those who may oppose it, that would be a problem. So I just feel those are a couple of the reasons. Another reason, when you're dealing with well, for that point of view, but then also, why our men are falling off, because really, you want to be this. There's two types of ways of handling this. You may want to be one of this Mr. Tough guy. So you listen to these rap music that's out here today, which I think is a topic we can talk about too, as far as, why we are still 14% of the population.
Mm-hmm.
Because 12% of the population is because the record labels themselves, they allow. Hold on just a minute, John. I'm gonna have to cough.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Yeah, they allow the type of music for our young youth to hear that's only dealing with either that type of topic or some type of hostility or animosity.
So let me ask you on that, since you brought that up, and then you can go ahead and expound. So, who is the one who is dictating what music is being played out there?
It's my opinion, and it probably can be supported with fact. Again, you're dealing with the larger population. You're dealing with, I believe personally there is a conspiracy out there. And so if we who own the record labels and record companies, let's just say, John, you and I, we were rappers, all right? The type of rapper that I was, hey, I'm Public Enemy, or you're Public Enemy. One of us is Public Enemy. We want to talk something that's going to bring knowledge and wisdom to our people.
Right.
And then there's other one want to talk about, hey man, I shot this brother. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, something ready to gun you down.
Yeah.
Gun you down. Well, if I'm the person, I'm going to say, well, your stuff's not going to sell. But this person over here that wants to gun you down, that's the culture. That's rap. That's what we want out there. So it's an economic thing as well as, hey, the more that they do this, the more that the young people are going to buy it because they're going to look up to that. That's a tough guy.
Right. Well, I think you touched on something very important, because when we were coming up, we were, products of the 70s and 80s, and when rap was hitting its high string, started to really come into the culture and stuff. Like you said, we were listening to KRS-One, we were listening to Public Enemy, we were listening to those types of rappers who were rapping about having a good time, but they were also rapping about knowledge. They were rapping about revolutions and things of that nature that was going on in the early 90s. And then all of a sudden, about 93, you get this sudden shift. Because understand, we knew about NWA, we knew about Too Short and all them back in the day, and that's what we bump in our cars and stuff like that. But that never got any radio play. And so all of a sudden, the radio that was playing all the stuff that was teaching our young brothers to be educated, to be smart, to stand up, to create, to build for your families, to create that culture that we needed, all of a sudden was shut down, and all of a sudden you start coming with this other type of rap. So you have to excuse me for a second. I had to shut that down. And so now you got this other type of rap that is being promoted, because they're like, hey, these brothers is talking about doing things, that was around the time that you had shows like In Living Color, Martin, what was the girls, Queen Latifah and them.
Living Single.
Yeah, Living Single, things of that nature. And,
the Cosby Show.
Cosby Show and the little college spinoff one that they had.
A Different World.
Yeah. You started really having a lot of things, Arsenio Hall and stuff. So you really started seeing our people on the big screens and stuff like that, and on TV and everything. We're really getting out there, and then all of a sudden, boom, everything gets shut down. You really can't. It's really hard to say of a mainstream black syndicate show on TV that happened after that era. I mean, man, maybe you can help me out, but I can't think of any. After Martin, after In Living Color, after Living Single and those shows, after those were shut down in the 90s, here we are 2018. We're just now getting with Blackish and things of that nature that are starting to pick up and everything, but nothing like we were back then. We've gone backwards instead of forward. And if you notice that, it's been from that time on that all of a sudden There's been the push for the thug type mentality. Has been the push for the feminization type mentality. And I myself, I think that due to how our brothers are treated out here in the street by the police, by the community at large and everything, I think that you know, as a young boy, you grow up and you believe that lie that they tell you, that you can do and be anything that you want to be. You look at yourself as a nice young kid, but the model of the black man is always that evil individual. But as they grow older and they become in junior high, high school, and they start seeing that image of a black man that they've been taught to fear, that they've been taught was bad, that they taught that was no good, that was nothing but a criminal, and all this other stuff. And that's where you have this tug of war with the young men, because they see an image, they believe themselves to be another image, which I believe that they can be whatever it is that they want to be. But then they're fighting that image that has been ingrained in their head. And then when they come into the confrontation, because one, they haven't been around men because due to the war on drugs and everything, the black man is being incarcerated. He's being shot out in the street. He's being ostracized from community. So now the only community that he's accepted in is, you know, basically the gang community for the most part. And, you know, so these young kids, I believe that they don't really want to be that, because, you know, to tell the truth, even as a gang member, you know, if you out there and you start making a bunch of money doing whatever it is you're doing, what's the first thing you're doing? Moving out the ghetto. So it's not like that's the thing that is in our heart to be in, is to be in an oppressed area. So everybody's trying to get out. And but the thing is that I believe that these young boys, because they don't have any male figures in their life to really look at, you know, they killed all of our male figures in the past, you know, in the 70s and 80s, early 90s. Any strong black male that stood up against the system was wiped out immediately or incarcerated.
Yep, and that really still goes on today. And that started with COINTELPRO by J. Edgar Hoover. Mm-hmm. That's still going on today in some form or another. Maybe they spread it out a little bit to where you can't centralize or find out who's responsible, but that was it.
Yeah, well, actually, it started with one of our favorite books that we read a long time ago, Willie Lynch. You know, as he said, you know, you take the biggest, the baddest, and the blackest one, and you tar and feather him. You strip him down in front of everybody, and you beat him to an inch of his life, and then you tie his four limbs to four horses, mm-hmm. and you beat the horses until they rip him in half in front of the women and the children. Mm-hmm. And that destroys that male protective image that's in their mind, that provider image that's in their mind, and you remove that male from the woman. And so the woman will then teach her daughters to be the strong one, the ones who lead the household. And they would raise their sons to be physically strong but mentally weak. And so that's the situation that we see today, because I think that that's where they're going with turning this way, because I think they so rarely feel that if I'm viewed out here in the street as a black male, then as the police say, oh, I saw him and I was feared for my life. I shot him 10 times, and each time I shot him, he gave a face, looked like a demon, and I just feared for my life. Well, you know, like I said, you let somebody shoot you and let me see you smiling while you're getting shot. You know, if you shoot somebody, they're gonna make a face, number one. So I think that this is in a sense a hidden psychological way of them trying to protect themselves.
Come on.
Trying to come with a feminine type approach, a feminine type of appearance, to where they no longer appear to be a threat in society.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and you know, I understand the sisters. You know, as the thing says, a mother doesn't want to see her son get down, doesn't want to see her son get shot and killed out in the middle of the street, and so she's willing to do whatever it takes,
including allow them to be gay,
including that.
Mm-hmm. That they know they're not a threat. Then you ain't seen a lot of gay people getting shot,
right?
You know, it's the ones who are the ones who are the tough guys, and then another thing too, just real quick, you know, we refer to ourselves, like I listen to my teenagers and things like that, and we, you know, we reverse everything good and make it bad. You know, I'm on the basketball court, I'm a beast out there.
Right.
See that term beast, or I'm a dog on the court.
Right.
And I always turn around, why can't you be a god on the court?
Yeah.
Why do you have to be a beast? Why do you have to be a dog? But it's been so ingrained into us. But when a white man hears you say that, he said he was a beast. Or in New York, when they tried to get those brothers for raping the lady in Central Park years and years ago, they were out on a night of wilding. You know, that's the term that they use. But, you know, black people use the word, I mean, I'm just wilding out, man. Yeah. I'm just wilding out. But when they said it in the press, because I had never even heard, you know, that's New York. That's how they talk. Yeah. Oh, they were on a night of wilding. You know, like some dogs and beasts out there. So they want to paint this picture so it'd be easy to kill you and gun you down.
Yeah, and that's part of the image that they painted of us. And you know, it's a shame that our sons, you know, we both have sons. And coming up during the time that we did, you know, we both went to high school and stuff together, public school and stuff. Both went to college and gotten our degrees and things of that nature. And for them to go up there and to paint the public school system as bad as it is, it really ain't that way. You know, it wasn't that way.
No.
But the thing is that we as a people, we have to understand that we have to get out of that mentality of allowing somebody else to dictate what goes on in our communities. You know, we have to take charge of our own communities. You know, you don't want to bring in teachers who will educate us. Well, you know, they didn't want to do that after slavery had been lessened. I won't say it was outlawed, because they always left that provision that, with the exception of incarceration, slavery is outlawed. But, you know, they're putting all of our men into prison. So in a sense, they're doing nothing but putting them back into slavery. And so, you know, that is where everything is going. You know, it's part of the problem there, is that they're working us to the point to where we don't take care of our own society. You know, back then they were like, hey, we know we got to do for ourselves. We've been put under this lie that, oh, well, once we're able to move into their communities, we're going to get the things that they got. No, they didn't give it to us before.
Right.
And so
it's called assimilation, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the thing is that, well, we've assimilated, but, you know, there's really, you know, you can't put chocolate in milk. You know, you can call it chocolate milk and say it's assimilated, but it ain't milk. Right. Once you change the chemical compound in it, is not the same as it was. And so we have that false understanding of thinking that when we move into their society, we'll begin to get the things that they got. No, because what do? We grew up, about 1.5 miles from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I know when I moved over there in that area, I was about 3 years old. We were one of the first African Americans to move in that area. School One was the #1 school in Indianapolis. And 5 years after we moved there, School One went from being the #1 school in Indianapolis all the way down to one of the bottom schools that there was by the time we went to high school. And it wasn't because the people were bad. It was just that our people started moving into those areas. And so what happened once we moved in, we weren't the first to move in. We were the first to buy in the area, but we weren't the first to move in because if you remember, we shared a driveway with our neighbor. Yeah. And so the people who lived next to us paid our mortgage for like 3 or 4 months, what my mother and father told me, until they were able to sell their house because they didn't want to live next to us. And so our neighbors, the Moores and stuff, they moved in, and they were the first to move in the area, but we were the first to buy because they made a thing with the people, you know, how you do a mortgage that you got so many days to execute this, and then for each day that you go beyond that after we've gone through the process of buying, then they have to pay. If you say that you're going to move in within 30 or 60 days, and after that 60 days, if you haven't vacated the premises for that party to move in, then you have to pay a penalty. So they were paying that penalty until they were able to sell their house. So that's just how they did. And so, you know, they run out. So, you know, it was a white neighborhood. We'll just call it milk neighborhood. When chocolate comes in, we think it's going to be a chocolate milk neighborhood, right. But all the milk runs out, you know. Right. And so we think that because we moved to these neighborhoods that had all these amenities and things, that all of a sudden everything was going to be great. But no, they're the ones that still govern everything in our communities, same way that they were before. They wasn't giving us nothing in our communities before, and they're not going to give us nothing in these communities now. And so we do an injustice to ourselves. Wear out a lot of shoe leather, marching down the streets to ask them to do something that we need to do for ourselves.
Correct.
I was talking to a couple ladies yesterday, and they wanted me to speak to their sons and stuff, but they believed to be single mothers, and they were wanting things to be done to help their sons. And I was telling them about a program that I'm doing down here in Southern Indiana that I did called BMI Black Male Initiative, and how the community came out against me and another individual that I was working with to prevent us from having this in the school. Now, this was something that was brought to us by a university, and because I knew the people there, it was a place that I had gone to and went to college to, and I was called there several times to come speak to the youth and everything. And they came and approached me, and they said, you know, we're having a problem with the black men, that they're coming here, they're not prepared. And so we have this program called BMI Black Male Initiative to help them to their first year or so in school to get to the level that they want to be at. My thing is, hey, why don't we implement that earlier while they're in high school? And that way, you know, by the time that they get to college, they'll be well prepared. They're like, great. They came, talked to the principal. Principal said, yeah, it's okay. We implemented it, opened it up for everybody, not just for blacks, but we left it the same. And they came and protested against us. Students, parents, everything else. You know, and it was a shame. And one of the things that I told them, I was like, you know, you guys, when these kids were dropping out of school, I didn't see you guys. When these little fake gangs that was coming up here was starting to form, taking our young men out, I didn't see you. When they started bringing in some drugs and stuff, and these kids were starting to experiment with drugs and stuff that most of them got from their kids, didn't see you guys. But dare I and another black man come in and tell these young men that we expect more out of them, then you guys have the audacity to come up here, not only protest, but you spend your money. And they said, well, we didn't spend any money against that. So I said, well, you bought T-shirts. So if you bought T-shirts, I said, I looked online to see where you guys got it from. Those T-shirts cost $25. So you spend $25 each to put these little T-shirts on, have your kids, parents, and everything else to come here and protest me trying to help these young black men out. And the principal kicked us out of the school. We tried to go to the school board, no help from there. But one thing I did learn from that, because I had gone against the school several times for their lack of respect and their ill treatment of our students and their lack of encouragement to our children. And so they invited me one time to come and hear the principal of the Japanese school come and speak. And they say, well, you know, he can explain to you, let you know that our school is not lessening the teaching environment for your kids, that we are up to par. And I said, all right, I'll come listen to him. So anyhow, he came there and he said, one of the main things that we do, I asked him, I said, what do you teach at your school? Because their students go to regular school and then they go to the Japanese school afterwards. And they go to the Japanese school 6 days out of the week. So I asked him, I said, what do you teach in your Japanese school that they don't teach in the regular school? He said, well, we just teach 3 things. And I said, okay. And he said, the first thing we teach is what you guys would consider to be Chinese math. He said, that teaches our way of thinking, how we process things and stuff. We want our kids to learn that. He said, you know, that only goes up to a certain level, you know, but you're adding, subtracting, and multiplying and dividing. He said, but by the time you get to your algebras, your trigonometry, your calculus, and things of that nature, those are more formulas. And so we don't go to that level on that. You know, as long as they learn the basics on how we do things, that's all we want. He said the other thing is that we teach calligraphy. He said where we're at, for the kids to come here for 3 or 4 years, it's very competitive back there where we're at. They need to keep up with their writing in Japanese and everything. So when they go back, they'll still be competitive. And I said, okay. And then it kind of got quiet. And I said, well, you know, I did learn how to count. You said 3 things. So what's the third one? He said, well, the third one is we teach Japanese history. I said, okay. And why is that? And he said, because we ain't going to let nobody else teach our children who they are. And I said, enough said. And that's that's some powerful stuff right there.
Very serious.
And that's the part of the issue that I believe with our kids. When you're only teaching about the people that in history, you know, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Huey Newton, Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman. You're not giving them. They're not giving them. I mean, they're giving them strong characters, but they're giving them strong characters that went through a lot of adversity, a lot of oppression, even to the point of death. And for a young kid to see that and say, well, the only way that I can help my people is to live an oppressed life or to just die, be murdered. And so, you know, I'm looking for an easier way out. You don't want to hear that stuff that, oh, well, you know, hey, yeah, you played a good game, but you got killed in the end. No kid wants to hear that all the time. You know, they don't want to hear that we were just slaves. Abraham Lincoln freed us. Martin Luther King got us some rights, and Barack Obama's in the White House.
But you're still the first to die in every movie.
Right. And so
reality too.
Except in Black Panther, white man was first to die. But you know, but
there's a lot of messages in that movie. I mean, even like your boy said at the end, you know, like you kind of were touching on about, hey, instead of live this type of life, I'd rather die.
Yeah,
you know, I don't. You know, he was product of America.
Right. Well, he represents that product of America, and that he said a lot of truth in that, and even the Black Panther himself, when he went and talked to his father, and he said, "How is it that you would leave your brother's child in America and not go back to get him?"
Think about that, though. Yeah. That line in itself.
Yeah, because I mean, wherever we're from over there, I have my beliefs as to where I think we're from. I think we are the lost tribes.
That's right.
That is spoken of in Scripture.
That's right.
And from the evidence that I've read in Scripture and outside of Scripture and everything else, I still strongly believe that is true. But there's never been anybody over there to come back and say, "Hey, these are our people." That's my brother's. That's my cousin. My brother's son. To come over here and wave the flag and say, "Hey, this is your home. Come over here." That has never happened, and so that's where part of our disconnect is. Part of our disconnect, even going back to the movie, is the cloak of that everything over there was jungle. And that was another funny thing. Africa is grasslands mostly.
Right. Very little jungle, if any.
Yeah, and even in Wakanda, it was cloaked in the fact that it was a jungle. I guess that's the jungle that Tarzan was swinging in. And so I said, man, there's a lot of hidden truth in that right there. About how we only understand what they tell us. A lot of us don't recognize that Egypt is in Africa.
They always say Egypt separately, like it's somewhere else.
Yeah, and the country that touches Egypt is Israel. They want to say that Israel's part of Europe, or they say it's a part of Asia. But I always ask them, I said, well, when you look at somebody from Saudi Arabia, or you look at somebody from Iran, do you consider them to be European, or do you consider them to be Asian? And they don't consider them to be either one. So how they're closer to those two continents than Israel is. So
right. Then those areas didn't always have non-Black people in them either.
Right.
I mean, you're talking about from a historical standpoint, you're looking at Palestine and you're looking at Persia and all those places. I mean, it only became lighter skinned later on after others
right
into that particular area. Excuse me. So you can't take that away. I mean, if you look at, I went to Dubai and I spent some time over there, and the people who live there are, it's the United Arab Emirates, but the Emiratis, the people there, they're Black. They're Black as me and you.
But they ain't gonna show that on TV.
And they own that land, and you can't buy land there. They'll rent it to you. So
you mean Trump Towers there is on rented land?
Right. So yeah. So that's but that's that's something that surprised me, because I didn't realize that the true owners of that particular area were Black people. And they make sure that when y'all start coming over here and building all these towers and the Burj Khalifa and all these big huge buildings, oh, you're just renting, buddy. This is our land, and we're ones going to be wealthy off it, because you're not going to come in and take our land from us like you've done everywhere else throughout the world.
Right.
So.
And that is the lie, that's the cloak of the lie that I see in the similarities of the movie The Black Panthers. We've only been taught what they are willing to let us know about Africa and about those countries over there. I mean, I remember growing up, the only images that we ever got of Africa was some little dude running down, spirit chugging, trying to run down a zebra or a giraffe, or some little baby laying there with his belly all swole up from not eating with flies all over his face. And nobody wanted to be associated with that. But that was during our time in the 70s when, you know, we was say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud, wearing the dashikis and stuff. You know, it's funny that we come back to that same evolution again, to where the dashikis and all that stuff is coming back in. So and the women are wearing their hair natural again. You know, we went through our time of assimilation, and we recognize that is just a false dream. That is not our reality. Yeah, they'll let us in their stores, they'll take our money, but they're not going to bring anything back to our community. And so that's what we need to do: build our own stores, build our own communities. This ain't nothing different than what they do.
Yep, and like we talked about, even on that level, agriculture. I know you're pretty, becoming an expert in that particular field. We've got to find a way to feed our communities good and healthy foods, especially in these places that they call food deserts. There's plenty of land, abandoned homes, abandoned lots that we need to take and farm those and create. And the thing about it here in the United States, I mean, we not only need to farm them, but we need to figure out ways to preserve them or save them in the times when it gets hard, like in the wintertime. What type of fruits that we can save or store away that are, I don't know how to go about all of that, but we got to find ways to feed ourselves throughout the winter months, as well as as soon as spring gets here, we're growing, we're planting again.
Yeah. Well, there are ways, and as we've talked before, you're in the area of child care and teaching the youth at a younger age. We're going to be getting together to put together a program to start them at a very young age of learning how to do produce, how to grow their own plants, plant their own gardens, to understand that eggs, milk, corn, things of that nature doesn't just come from the grocery store, that it comes from to understand its source. It's fruits and vegetables come from the ground, that eggs come from chickens and milk comes from a cow, and to be able to know what one looks like in person. And so we're both working in a very great area, because the education of our youth is great in order for us to get back to that lifestyle that we once knew as a people prior to being oppressed and subjugated to this oppression here. We have to get back to teaching our children at a very young age in order to get those advancements that we need. So
I agree.
But I'm gonna say this, because I want to be a respecter of time. We're gonna try to keep this to about an hour program each week. And I know you and I can ramble for a long time, so that means we got time to come back next week and do the same thing. Hopefully we can have a few other people on here, maybe get our sons on there or some other brothers that we know, and begin to dialogue from there. So is there anything that you would like to say in closing?
I would just like to say that I think this is a very good forum. I think it's a good opportunity for us. I think it's time. I think this is the beginning of an opportunity for us to really make a serious difference and a dent in the way things are going. I mean, it just takes a little water on the seed to germinate.
Yeah.
But that comes from the earth, that comes from what God wants, will germinate. So I believe this topic is a very important and relevant topic, and I look forward to continuing this and actually growing this, expanding in areas, not only just talking about us as a community, but our overall health as human beings and our place on this earth, and how we can actually sustain ourselves and make sure that there is a future for us and our people going forward.
Well, hey, I know from experience that if there's a brother that I need to go into battle with, that you the man.
Yes, sir, my brother.
We battled the giant. What they tell us back in the day, we ain't nothing but little David.
That's right.
Going up against the giant, but we prevailed. And so,
Yes, sir.
and there was a lot of brothers and sisters that were able to profit from that.
Yes, sir.
And
so and you never know what difference it made in their lives. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone needed that boost, and maybe some were able to go and do different careers as a result. I mean, we still kind of hear about it today, even, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just we didn't realize how far-reaching that was going to be.
No, and that was the thing. We'll have to get on here and share that because that was that's something that the people need to know about.
Yes,
you know, we've often talked about it, but that's definitely something that people need to know about, how two brothers can come together and take on a mega business and succeed. But you know, and part of that story is sticking together, because they did everything they could to divide us.
Even within our own race, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah,
in detail. But you know what? Like I said, when you have two people who know who they are, you can't divide us. You can try every little tactic that you want to attack us on. You can pull me to the side, pull you to the side. Hey man, I got this, and I got that. You know, forget about this person, forget about that person. But at the end of the day, that brotherly love, and we know that we're united for a purpose.
Yeah.
You can't beat that, and we need to make sure that our people understand that too going forward. Like, you know, we have to be our own. I don't know what word to use.
Yeah.
All right, my brother, I appreciate that.
Yeah, Wakanda forever. All right. Hey, well, we'll start this again next week, and we'll come up with some more topics and go from there. So, yes, hey, to you, brother. Blessings to you and your family.
Likewise, my brother. Talk to you next week.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.